Okay, good afternoon. How are you? My name is David Loveday. I'm one of the researchers here at DDS Analytics. Very excited for our first report out. We got a lot of ground to cover, so let's just dive right in. So just to bring everybody up to speed and refresh you here, the DDS Analytics was engaged by the client to do a talent management study, really to focus on some of the attrition rates this company has been witnessing. And we were provided a fairly comprehensive database, which was originated in the employee files, just captures for each specific employee. It captures a whole bunch of information, both categorical and numerical, measurements. And then we were asked to see, given these data, were we able to identify some of the top factors which contribute to attrition or voluntary turnover? And then along the way, anything else that we can learn from the data set? And then, really all of this is building towards, are we able to predict, build a predictive model which can successfully or accurately predict whether an employee, given a set of data, what's their likelihood of leaving the company? And then, following that, we were also asked if we could build a model or a regression model which is able to predict, kind of monthly income based upon the same input data set. So, just to give you a quick executive summary here, DDS Analytics is very pleased to report that, yes, we were able to identify the kind of the big hitters, the most impactful variables, which seem to be leading to attrition. We've listed these here below. You can kind of review each line at your leisure, but I think that the overarching message is that our single most at-risk demographic are younger employees. These are folks that are in the 18 to 28 range, and that is by far the most impactful or controlling variable. And then most of the rest of these things tend to be derivatives or very, very closely correlated with just the gross age of the employee. The other significant variable is does this employee work overtime? And we're finding that yes, folks that work overtime are much more likely to leave than those that don't. In terms of building a predictive model for monthly income, we were able to come up with a multiple linear regression model, which had an adjusted R-square value of 91%, using just 5 variables. Most of these are pretty intuitive, though there was a couple interesting head scratchers that we'll address a little bit later here. But yes, we were able to predict monthly income to a fairly confident degree, given the input data set. So, here's just a description of the data, more or less 870 rows, 32 of the 36 columns we actually used in the analysis. Eight of those were character or categorical fields. We had 24 numeric fields, though 10 of those tended to be integer fields that behaved more like they were categorical. And mercifully, thankfully, the data set didn't have any missing or null values that we had to address. So we're just going to blow through the next couple of slides, and really this is more meant to represent kind of a catalog of just different statistics of the internal architecture of the database. Moving forward, everything you see in blue, all of the bar charts and lines in blue here represent the attrition sample or folks that left, whereas the red are the folks that were retained or remained. So here we're looking at about a 16% company-wide attrition rate, which, if you look up the labor bureau stats, this is very much in line with what the rest of the corporate workforce in the United States is seeing. From here on out, though, all the numbers are going to be related to the attrition yes sample or the attrition no sample exclusively. So so when we look at plots like this, all of the numbers that are annotated for the red plots are specific to just the folks that have been retained. So if you look at the top left plot, where this is just a breakdown of female and male, the gender breakdown between the attrition and the retention populations. So what we're seeing in sort of that particular column is that we had much more male attrition. We had more attrition of employees that are male than those that are female, versus the plot to the right, which is showing marital status. We saw a lot more, much higher attrition of the single class than we did with either the married or the divorced. And then, we're looking at a lot of other variables that are similar to those here that follow. So we're just going to blow through these, and I'll hit the high points here too. So now, just looking at the total company demographics, we can see that about 65% of all of our employees in the company are within the R&D department, though the sales department has the much higher proportion of folks that did voluntarily leave the company. So one of the statistics, or one of the techniques that we used, was just looking at the different shapes of the curves between the attrition population and the retention population, and from that we were able to derive some of our biggest hitting variables. And again, we see things like overtime and marital status and years in current role, and especially age, contribute to that, versus some of the more stable demographics. So those folks that don't work overtime, actually we saw our divorced population tend to be the most stable, have the lowest levels of attrition. When we look at things like correlation, what we're finding is that there really isn't very strong correlation between the variables, except in those things that tend to be derivatives of age or very closely associated with the age of the employee. And then finally, what we did see is does seem to be some kind of structural correlations between things like job levels and salary. So what we see is very, very stable salary hikes year over year until you get to about age till 5 or 6 years with the company, and where we see these step changes. And it seems we seem to get a glimpse of some of the internal architecture of how the company is rewarding and promoting employees. So finally, we built a naive Bayes and KNN classification schemes, and we tested both of those. The naive Bayes definitely outperformed the KNN classification scheme, and we got very high accuracy and stable results with those, and we'll deliver these to the client as the preferred model moving forward for predicting attrition. And then we also built, again, our multiple linear regression model to predict monthly income. And it's interesting, we were able to come up with some very high scores looking at things like how far away an employee lives from the job, and then job level, percent salary hike, total working years, and years with current manager, with our job level being by far the most controlling of the variables, which makes sense when you're in a corporate structure with defined salary and compensation bands that are related to sort of your rank or your position within the company. So again, we did quite a bit of testing and validation with these models, and we're able to achieve a predictive monthly income linear regression, multiple linear regression of about 91% adjusted R-squared. So thank you for your time, and look forward to working together more in the future.